welcome to Midweek Mystery, where I share with you whatever project and tips and tricks are on my desk this week. Welcome back, everybody. It's midweek, and what's on my desk this week? Well, for those of you who watch my scrap busting Sunday video, you will know that I have been turning gel print scraps into cards this week. And here's a few that I did. I did some of these on camera, and then I've done some afterwards. Now, this is great, and I would like to use some of these to gift to people as Christmas presents. You know, like a set of cards or notelets that they can use. And when I was thinking about this week, I remembered I saw a video, gosh, some time ago now. In fact, when I looked it up, it was actually published 3 years ago, and it's a video by Julie, who's Julie DiMaggio, I think her name is, and her channel is the Paper Pixie. So I'll put a link to her channel down below. And Julie makes a lot of cool boxes and things like that, and I'd remembered that I had seen her make a box like this which was suitable for putting cards in. So that's what I've been doing, and that's what I am doing this week. So have a look at this, and that's a cool little box. And what you will find is I figured out roughly 6 cards fit in there quite nicely. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and they pop in the middle here. Look at that. So these are standard, we call them A2 cards. I'll just find my... Okay, these are 6 by 4, roughly. And look, they fit in there, and then look at that. And I thought to myself, what a lovely little gift set. So, you know, you're giving someone a lovely set of cards to use, but also in a nice little folder. And this can be made from a 12 by 12 piece of card, and you can also get a little gift tag from the same piece. So I've been playing with these this week, partly, as I say, for cards, but I've also been thinking about what else could you put in them. And I was thinking, you know, I made this one. Look at this, isn't this paper fabulous? And this one's got a little Velcro closure. And again, I've got my tags here ready to go. What else could I put in them? And I was thinking, you know, for the teenage girls in our family, you know, our grandchildren, you could do a little face mask or lip gloss, nail varnish, you know, bits and pieces like that would sit in there really nicely. Or maybe those little travel accessory sets, you know, the small amounts of toiletries to travel with. And then I got to thinking, well, that's cool, but what about the men in our lives? And now I haven't finished this one yet, but I've made this one, which you know, has a slightly more masculine feel to it. Although personally, I love the dark blue. I'm not a girly girl, and I love the dark blue. But you know, I was thinking, what about those men in our lives who are often quite difficult to buy, you know, a little gift for? And I was thinking, you know, you could put the ubiquitous socks or undies in there. But equally, you know, I know that Mr. Jem would love it filled with lollies, or sweets or candy, wherever you are in the world, whatever you call them. And indeed, you could do these, you know, just a thought that's just occurred to me was that you could do these with a Halloween theme if you wanted to fill them with candy or other treats for Halloween. So all sorts of things, and I think, you know, I'd love some more ideas. So if you watch this and have other ideas about what you could put in them, you know, do let me know. Oh, the other thing we did think about was if you've got a gardener in your family, you could get a little pair of gardening gloves and maybe some packets of seeds, you know, something like that in here. So there's lots of different ways you can do closures on these. You've seen two briefly already. The other way is to wrap a ribbon round with a tag, you know, all sorts of things. You can use your imagination for that. But what I'm going to show you today is how to make this basic box. And I've got to be honest with you, once you've made 2 or 3, you can whip one of these up in about 10 minutes. You know, depending on how much you want to do in terms of the closures and the decoration. But the basic box you can do in under 10 minutes. So these are, I think, lovely little additions for your stash, and, you know, particularly when we're coming up to Christmas time. I think, you know, a few of these, they just make a lovely little gift holder. The other thing I did think about this one, which I just love, it's so pretty. You could, if you put a handle on it like this, it would look like a little handbag. And like, wouldn't that be cute sitting under the Christmas tree? Anyway, there you go. Limited only by your imagination, as I often say. So what are we going to need? Okay, you are going to need a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. And look at this, isn't this amazing? I will find, this comes from the same company that made this one. And I will have a look at my paper pad and see if I can find the name for you, and I will include it in the description down below. I know that I bought it in a store here called Spotlight, and I know Spotlight are in Australia as well. I just love them. Okay, so we need a 12 by 12 sheet, and we need the ability to score it, some scissors and some glue, and really that's about it. So what I'm going to do, you will see that these sheets have the extra little bit on, so I'm going to trim this down so that it is a true 12 by 12 square, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what we're going to do. All right, so I've taken that little strip off the side. Now, don't throw that away, because I found them quite useful. I'll show you what I did with this one. My little Velcro dots are really quite effective. So you'll see what I did with this one was use the strip and just put half of it there and half of it across here, just where the Velcro's going, just to give it a little bit of extra strength. And actually, having done that on this one, it's something that I would probably do again anyway. It just gives, oh, I've done it slightly differently here, and I'll tell you why afterwards. But it just gives that, the flap, it gives it just that little bit extra strength, and also along this side as well. And that's the side that's going to be opened and closed. So don't throw this piece away, but I am going to put it to the side for now. Okay, you need to have a look and see whether your paper has a right way up for the pattern. You know, is it directional, or is it you know, can it go any way? I think this could probably go anyway. On balance, I think I like it that way. Most of the monstera leaves seem to be the right way up. So with your pattern the right way up, you need to start scoring. Now, I only have a very silly little scoring board. It's not silly, a very small scoring board, and it's no good for 12 by 12 paper. And so I've sort of developed this method with my cutter, is that, now I have to do this the right way around as well. Make sure the pattern's the right way up. Okay. With the pattern at the top here, you want to score at 3 inches. Now what I've discovered is that I can use this and score at 3 inches. So I've scored at 3 inches, and then you want to score at 9 inches, or you want to turn your paper round and score at 3 inches again. So what you're basically doing is that you're scoring 3 inches in from this edge, 3 inches in from this edge. Now, this is the top of our paper, and so those score lines are running this way. Now we want to turn it round so that the top of our paper is to the left hand side. And from the left hand side, you are going to score, and I will put all these measurements down for you. You're going to score at 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches, and then 10 inches. Now I can't measure 10 on here, so I'm turning it round and doing 2 inches. Hopefully this is not confusing you. So from this side, you've got 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches, and 10 inches. Now what you want to do, so I've turned it so that my top of my pattern is at the top again. Before you score, there are 2 pieces that we need to cut out, and it's these 2 bottom corners. So working along those score lines, take that corner, oh, I'll turn that round, don't be lazy. Now, again, don't throw these bits away, because these are just the right size for a tag, or if you want to do a closure like this, you might want to punch a circle out of those. All right, so don't throw those away either. Okay, so on this flap that's left here, from this bottom edge working upwards, you need to do one more score line that's going to be at 1.5 inches from this bottom edge. Now I happen to know that, oh sorry, this just takes me a minute. I happen to know that the width of this bar is 1.5 inches. But if you've got a nice big scoreboard, you're good to go. It's on my wish list. All right. Now, what we're going to do is fold in on all of those score lines. So you're folding to the inside. I'm going to do that on every score line. Let's do the two side ones. Okay, so all your score lines are done. Now, this may seem a bit tricky, but once you've done it once, I can assure you it's not. So you're looking for this score line here, and you're going to fold this score line down to this edge. So if you put your hand here and a finger here, and you want to fold so that that edge, I don't know whether you can see that, but I will show you in a moment, and then press down that fold there. So let me show you that again. You've taken this score line here to this edge by folding like that. Okay, we're going to do the same again. It's easier to turn it around. I find it easier to turn it round, so we'll do this one first. So you're taking this score line to this edge, put your finger there, and it folds down really easily. You can see? There we go. So turn it around, and you're going to do the same again. This score line, so the score line nearest to you comes to this edge. Okay, and again with this side, score line nearest to you meeting this edge. And you will end up with something that looks like this. And what you then do, you will see, that's all there is to it, really. But what we're going to do to finish it off is grab some glue, and there's 4 triangles that you're going to glue. This one, and the same 2 at the bottom. So don't panic, I've got a diagram. Oh, my glue's blocked up. I've got a diagram to show you that will make this easier. Just unblock my glue. There we go. So you're going to glue this one. And I find it easier to do one side at a time. And you want a reasonably strong glue, and you want to be careful not to get it in these areas here. You're going to fold that over and just press those 2 triangles down. So you've got this bit sticking up in the middle, and you're going to do the same on the other side. There's one, the other one. Now, it is good to just allow those to dry for a few moments before you do anything else. So I'm going to do that and then I'll come back. Okay, that's had a few minutes to dry. And what you can see now is that when we fold that up, the box is complete. Now, one of the things I didn't do, and I meant to, is before you stick those edges down, is if you want to, you can just go around the edges of your card or your box with a little bit of ink. What you will notice is this is white, what's called white core card, and it's what that means is that it is printed on both sides, has a layer of print on both sides, but when you cut it you see the white middle of that. It's not folding up right now, I'm just figuring out why. There we go. You see the middle of the card and you get that white line along the edge. You just run your ink pad along, solves that problem. Now if you want to, you can also ink all your folds. And around the edges. This sort of step is entirely up to you. Let's get that a bit better. There we are. And you know, if you've got a lighter paper, you can make this a decorative element if you want to. So now all that's left to do is to think about how you want to finish it. Now what I was saying about adding a little bit of extra strength with the piece that you've cut off, if you have a piece to cut off, is I like to stick it along the flap there. And again, I'm going to do this while I remember. Now you do want a reasonable, like I don't think this would work with paper. It wouldn't be strong enough. So you want a scrapbook, you know, you want a card, a scrapbook card rather than paper. I don't have a weight for this card, but it's a, you know, thin card. Experiment, see what works for you, I guess is the answer. Now what you would also see here is that I didn't obviously get my fold quite as accurate as I might have done, and so by adding that little strip there, not only does it give it a bit of extra strength, but it also just tidies up any little bits like that. Okay, there we go. The only thing now is to decide how we're going to close it. So I'm going to turn one of these certainly into a tag. So I'm just going to snip the corners. And add a hole. There we go. There's my little tag. I'm going to ink that. Now, I'd like to show you a third way of closing these, because we've looked at this one, which has the little tie closure, and I've looked at this one, which has the Velcro. What I want to do is I'm just going to have a rummage around and see if I can find some ribbon that goes with this box. And if I can, I'll be back and I'll show you a third way of closing these boxes. Okay, there's so many colours on this this card that I'm a bit I'm spoilt for choice really, so I've pulled out a few different options here. That might be a little bit too limey green. I've got a pink, which is quite nice. I've got a couple of pieces of sari silk, which would work. And I've also got this. This is a sort of a pale lilac-y colour. I think that's going to be my best option. Alright, so the other way that I had thought about closing these is simply to wrap your ribbon around and tie with a bow. Now, I've just popped an eyelet on my tag there, and of course you can, that's a little bit long, so I'm just going to take a little bit off there. You can thread your tag onto your ribbon as well. So let's do that. Do you know, I've got a piece of, gosh, fluff or something. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Okay. So let's thread our ribbon on, tag on. Oh gosh. There we go, and you have a little box ready to go. One last thing I find that makes it sit better is if on these side pieces you put your finger in the middle and you just pinch to get a little inward fold. What do they call that? A valley fold in there. I'll do it again this side. Just put my finger in the middle, just bring the two sides together and pinch, and you get that little, and then those sides stay tucked in, and it just seems to hold together better. So there we are, guys. I've got a spare piece for this one, which I can use for something else. So there's three different ways of putting these together, but it's basically the same pattern. And you can see on this one I've done some decoration with a little scrap of paper that I had. And you know what, I actually did this because this was one of the first ones I did, and I made a score line in the wrong place, and so I thought rather than wasting it, I've just wrapped some paper around it. Now the reason I'm showing you this is that if you do this, what you will see is if you bring the paper around the sides, and you could do this with ribbon or whatever, but if you bring it around the sides here, what this means is that back bit doesn't open up quite as far like the front does. So you can see these two pieces are held together here rather than this one, which opens right out. So it's just something to bear in mind. I probably wouldn't go all the way round because your box would be very firmly, you know, fixed like this. So my suggestion is if you're going to put something around it, you cut it and leave a little gap so that either the back or the front flap can still open up fully for you to be able to get things in and out. So there we go, thanks to Julie at the Paper Pixie for the idea. I'd love to hear what you think, and what would you put in them? There you go. Let's get some ideas going. Right, before I finish up, I'm going to show you something which hopefully will make this a lot easier for you. Now, I'm just going to check that you can see that. Yep. Okay. Now, and I will keep this here so that you can screenshot if you want to. But if you imagine that this is your 12 by 12 sheet of paper, this is the top. If it's a pattern piece, this is the top of your paper. You score at, from this edge, see the line, you score at 3 inches and 9 inches. And then from this edge, you score at 4.5, 5.5 and 10. You cut these pieces away, and then you score the flap at 1.5 inches from the bottom edge. These dotted lines represent your folds. If you remember, we folded the score line out to the edge. So you don't need to worry about those too much, that's just to show you. And then once you have folded those, where this purple scribble is, that's where you glue. Right, so I'm going to leave that there for a moment, and you can screenshot that if that's helpful to you. All right, guys, so there we are. There's a midweek mystery for this week. As our little boxes can be used for cards or small gifts or anything else your imagination likes, really. Okay, I'm going to go and finish this one off. But for now, thank you so much for joining me again. I hope that's been fun. Ka kite anō.